State capture resumes this morning at 10 o'clock. Former SARS Commissioner Tom Moyane will know today whether he can cross-examine Public Enterprise Minister Pravin Gordhan or not. The Chairperson of the Commission of Inquiry into State Capture, Deputy Chief Justice Raymond Zondo, is expected to make a ruling when the Commission resumes its public hearings in Parktown. Moyane applied for leave to cross-examine Gordhan after he accused the former SARS Commissioner of being central to the state capture campaign at the Revenue Service. Now, the State Capture Commission will also hear evidence of former officials of state security, Gibson and Njenje, and Shaik will take the stand today. There have been complaints that state security is politically compromised. Let's get the very latest now and what more we can expect. Our reporter Manqoba Mchunu joins me now live in studio. Manqoba, very good morning to you. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Okay, let's start off with regards to this application by Tom Moyane. Remind us about the context.
Well, of course, you recall that there were allegations made by Pravin Gordhan to the extent that, Tom Moyane was central in the state capture at SARS, of course, with regards to some of the issues involving the Guptas and the tax issues involving the Guptas. So there were some of those allegations that were made earlier on. But of course, you recall that Tom Moyane had applied earlier on to cross-examine Pravin Gordhan on some of the things that he had said when he appeared at State Capture Commission. Of course, that was not allowed by the Deputy Chief Justice at the time, because he had said that Tom Moyane had failed to show how, Pravin Gordhan, or the evidence that had implicated him from the testimony of Pravin Gordhan. And of course, now he has again approached the chair and hoping, of course, to, get his chance to actually pose questions to Pravin Gordhan. Yeah. So that judgment, of course, we're expecting it to be given today.
So we are expecting the chair to make that ruling first up. Then I understand that Shaik, the former South African Secret Service head, will also take the stand. What is he likely to reveal?
Well, of course, you'll recall that last week, during Reverend Frank Chikane's testimony, he had alluded to the fact that, the Guptas, from the onset, when they arrived in the country, they had a clear intelligence plan to capture the state. And I think he posed the question of how could intelligence not pick it up? Let's take a listen, please.
If such an intelligent operation was in place, I would have been surprised if our national intelligence services would have missed it. I know I've worked with them. They should have known. If they didn't, I would say that we had no intelligence services. That would be the implication. And that's very vulnerable as a country. If anything like this would happen over such a long period and you miss it, then you are very vulnerable as a nation. My expectation is that the intelligence agencies must have had this information, except that it would be within the realm of classified information. Public information we have now is that 2 key senior intelligence officers did report this matter to the president, but it did cost them their jobs.
And of course, Blaine, that will be key here as to whether the intelligence at the time were aware or was aware that there was actually this phenomenon of state capture, and if they had the intimate knowledge of what was really happening with the Guptas having used, undue influence to gain contracts from government departments as well as some SOEs. So the question is, what did intelligence do about it at the time? And of course, we have heard Shaik before in interviews, in media interviews, alluding to the fact that, during the time when he was the head of the Secret Services, they had sort of raised this issue that made recommendations that, this issue or this phenomenon should be looked into, even saying that, at the time when they made those recommendations, he believes that if those allegations or those recommendations were actually, taken seriously, this could have been avoided. So he's expected to shed more light on basically what it is that they did, what it is that they knew at the time, and what role the ministers played, because he has also accused previously the ministers of intelligence, Siyabonga Cwele to be exact, and David Mahlobo, of sort of interfering with the work of the secret services, and also saying that they failed to act rationally on certain decisions. So we expect to hear more of those details, of course, and what role the then former president, who was also a friend of the Gupta family, who's also been implicated in state capture, played in as so far as possibly interfering or protecting the Gupta family.
Look, Shaik has vast experience in intelligent matters, so I guess the question would be, how frank is he likely to be today, and how much he does reveal with regards to intelligence? So that's very interesting. Gibson and Njenje also about to take the stand. Similar testimony, related testimony?
Similar testimony. You recall that they were there almost at the same time during that period of state capture. And of course, he's also going to allude to some of the things that had happened. You know, there's been also accusations of political interference within the secret services, and how, you know, it was also used to fight or to settle political scores for others. So those are some of the things that we expect to hear from the evidence of Gibson Njenje. But more than anything, also the corruption and the rot that was in there, of how certain operatives within the state security agency were used by certain members to gain information, how some of them were even would approach the ministers to offer certain information to get promotions and things like that. So really the extent in which the rot was at the secret services, and how that in somehow also enabled, or not only enabled, but also somehow then moved the focus from state capture.
All right, Manqoba, thank you very much indeed for your reporting. We'll check in back with you a little later on. That State Capture Commission will resume at 10 o'clock in Parktown this morning.